God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. Yeah.
Crystal Hadnott is a philanthropist, a wellness expert, and a true inspiration. Once paralyzed, she went on to run over 100 marathons, proving the power of grit and perseverance. She is an icon, a role model, and the author of 2 books, who continues to inspire others to push past limits and live with purpose.
I always tell people I turn my pain into possibilities, and that's where I find my power. I say, you know what? I'm gonna run a marathon. She laughed at me. I was like, no greater motivation.
Okay.
Than
saying no to Crystal.
Click the bracelets. Running is the total opposite. Like, it has nothing to do with color.
Mm-hmm.
You know, actually, it's how we bring different cultures, communities together.
Good morning, runner viewers, and good morning, Crystal.
Good morning.
As I was preparing for this interview, I really thought of you as a fighter. You overcame the colon failure when you were young.
Yes.
You were paralyzed and you had to learn how to walk again.
Yes.
You managed the autoimmune disease.
Yes.
You wrote 2 books. You opened several businesses.
Yes.
What do you think your purpose, how would you find your purpose in life?
Outside of crazy? No. So I really see my purpose as showing that there's power and possibilities.
Okay.
I really think that if we shift our mindsets, we can turn, I always tell people, I turn my pain into possibilities. And that's where I find my power. And seeing how can I shift whatever the current situation is to work on my behalf. And so I kind of see myself as that person. And I was obsessed with the cartoon when I was younger, Wonder Woman.
Okay.
She would click her bracelets together. And so in my head, I had this like click my bracelets together and let's just go. And so I've always, just have that mindset where I'm like, okay, I need to click the bracelets to change my mindset. And that's been how I live my life.
And I think I like how you said turning pain into possibility, because I think we're going to talk a lot about pain today as we run, but we'll try to keep it positive. So let's start from the early days. You're Houstonian. You grew up in Third Ward.
Yes.
A very tough neighborhood back in the day.
Yes. Yes.
Yet you beat all the odds and you became the person you are right now. Yeah. How do you think those early days build your character?
Growing up in the neighborhood I grew up in, I tell people resilience wasn't an option. It was like resilience was inherited. Like you had to be resilient to survive. It was the survival mode, was resilience.
Because of the neighborhood and the environment?
Because of the neighborhood, the environment. The environment had tons of resources, but also had tons of challenges. And tons of resources we didn't have.
True.
So it was, you had to, if you wanted to develop a life outside of a neighborhood, you had to have resilience. And so, because it wasn't an easy straight road. And so you had to develop that grit.
Okay.
And so I think growing up in that neighborhood just taught me or forced me to be resilient. It forced me and taught me grit. And so I had no other choice.
That's true. And I think you're also very connected with your parents, right? With your,
yes.
How big of a role did they play in building or in shaping your character?
Oh, my dad, I'll tell people, is if there's a picture of resilience and grit in the dictionary, picture of my father.
Really? Why?
My dad is 84 today. He's fought cancer twice.
Oh my gosh.
After 80. And he still wakes up and do 10 miles a day. Walking, not running, but and his 50 push-ups and his 50 sit-ups. And so he is the very definition of resilience and grit. And he taught me everything. I mean, that's where the mindset came. That's where I saw what it meant. And my mom, coming from a small country town in Louisiana, you know, she also was about, you know, it's not where you're from, it's where you go. And so having those two people as my parents taught me everything I know. Yeah.
That's amazing. Speaking about grit, you definitely have a remarkable grit. Yeah, you were one of the youngest directors of the American Heart Association,
Yes.
right? And I think it was around that time, so maybe 20 years ago,
Yes.
where you had your accident that led to you being paralyzed.
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened or how did it happen?
Well, it's officially the 20-year marker this year, which
Oh
I didn't
my
even
gosh.
think about until now. It's happened in 2005. And, you know, I was really excited about being one of the youngest directors. And of course, when you're young, you know, and anxious and excited, there was one day I was preparing for meetings and I just honestly, I didn't eat, you know, because I was just anxious. And throughout the day, I just got lightheaded and had a slip and fall accident that ended up becoming the accident that changed my life. That minor slip and fall became spinal and nerve damage. And I had paralysis on my left side from hip to foot. And so that was the marker like my defining moment in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you were paralyzed for 6 weeks, right? Or
Yeah,
something
so I
around that
had
time.
no movement for 6 weeks, and eventually I had movement. And I was like, I tell people that was in those moments of no movement is where I learned patience, because I couldn't even get up and take myself to the restroom. You know, I had to rely on somebody to help me with everything. I learned how to surrender. But my grit grew. I always say, and I know it's so funny to say, grit grew. I was like, grit grew in that moment though, because it was no longer about, oh, I want to accomplish this. It's like, oh, I have a limitation, a physical limitation that's stopping me from pushing through. And so I learned grit from a different perspective. And it was really then about trusting the process. And I tell people I used to talk to my leg like I would visualize, because I read this doctor who had a similar accident. He's now really popular. Everybody loves him now. Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh, I love him, yes.
And 20 years ago, he wasn't that popular, but I read about him and he was like, well, if you visualize and just talk to your body, it responds. And I did. And I was just like, visualize my leg, my foot moving, and talking to it every day. I was like, this doesn't work. But one day, you know, I just kept doing it. And one day, I had movement. And then from movement, I had feeling. It was tingly and painful a little bit. And ended up going back to the doctor to start the process of physical therapy. And so that was a different grit.
Yeah, oh, for sure. But in that moment, or those moments where you were laying down without the movement, were you afraid that you won't be able to move
absolutely.
again?
I tell people, I was in my 20s. The only thing I tell people, because people are like, oh my God, you were such a fighter. And I was like, really? I was just like, very 20-year-old, you know. I was like, this is not how my story is supposed to end, you know. I was like, this is not sexy.
Yeah.
No man is gonna want me on the couch. You know, so I had those very true visual thoughts, you know. It wasn't always just like, oh, I'm a fighter, I'm gonna push through.
No,
So the reality is like, I wanna go to the bar with my friends, you know.
Right. Yeah.
You know, those things too. You know, and I was like, I'm too young to be on the couch, not moving. I don't want to be in a wheelchair. You know, it's not sexy. I was like to myself, I didn't feel like I liked who I was on the couch. But I was like also in the back of my head, but if I had a wheelchair, if I had a cane, how can I make it sexy? You know, so I did also have those thoughts. So it was really, you know, a mixture of my 20-year-old self, 25-year-old self, you know, vanity, but also just wanting a different life too at the same time.
That's the best motivation sometimes.
Yeah.
So you start your physical therapy.
Yes.
You start walking with a cane at some point.
Yes.
And then suddenly you decide to run a marathon.
Yeah, I decided, really honestly, I had a mentor who ran marathons.
Okay.
And I thought it was such a cool thing, but never something I wanted to do. I just thought he was like, I was like, man, he's so in shape, you know. Running marathons like that seemed like an impossible thing. I barely could run 2 miles. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm a tennis player first, because I played tennis most of my life in my childhood. And it's like, I'm not a runner. Running is what we do for punishment.
Yes,
You know,
I heard that.
If you're late to practice, you run, you know, that kind of thing. But it was something that one of the therapists didn't realize. She's like, well, this is probably going to be your new normal. And just get used to the cane. And I felt defeated for a second.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why am I coming here if this is it? Like, you're saying this is my full potential right here.
I see.
And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna run a marathon. She laughed at me. I was like, oh, no greater motivation
Okay.
than
Saying no to Crystal.
click the bracelets. You know,
yes.
it came back. You know, I was like, that whole visualization came back. I was like, tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna do it. And so when she said that, I was like, I'm gonna run a marathon. And 9 months later, I found myself crossing my first finish line. So
That's amazing because, you know, you barely walk and then you choose the hardest thing to do, not even 5K, not 10K.
I've done it all my life.
I can see that. That's remarkable grit.
Yeah.
And how many marathons have you done so far?
I said one day I was gonna count. I'm definitely more than 150.
Okay.
I don't think I'm quite to 200. So
Okay.
somewhere in that happy
Oh my God.
space of 150 to 200.
Yeah, at that point you stop counting.
I said one day I'm gonna count. The
Doesn't matter.
funny part about it is when I first started running, I didn't keep my medals. I gave them away to little kids when I would go talk to them. I would do motivational speaking. And I would put the medals around kids' necks. And so I tell people, I can't even go back and count my medals because I know I've given at least 30 medals away in my lifetime when I first started. And I just, you know, after that, I was like, oh, I should start keeping these and hanging them on the wall, you know? And so I said, I'll go back and count, but I'm always going to be off a little because I've given so many away.
It's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Kids. So 150 plus
Yes.
marathons is
Half and full.
yeah.
So a combination.
Something that only few people do. So that's a huge achievement. What did training for all these races teach you mentally that you can apply or maybe have been applying to your life?
Yeah. First, it was physical, right? Like training to get to a finish line. But then I noticed the therapy and the healing mentally and spiritually. And that's where kind of almost an addiction started for me, is that, it wasn't about pacing to the mile markers. It was like, how do you pace yourself in your life?
I see.
I was creating businesses and it wasn't sustainable for me to always just go hard all day, every day. I had to learn how to pace myself, and it taught me endurance and waiting to enjoy the process, So running became healing and therapy and something way more than physical for me. As I began to see the parallels in life. I always knew the quote, people's like, life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. But until you actually are living it, you don't really realize how much truth is in that. And it's so much more than the physical aspect of it.
It's true, and it's hard to pace yourself in life.
Yes,
like you say.
Just like in a marathon, you're excited.
Yeah.
I tell people, especially the first few miles, the crowd is cheering for you, and you're probably going faster than you should, and you're feeling good. And so, I have to learn that in life. I may be excited about a project or excited about starting a new business, and I might have all these people excited for me, but I have to pace myself, and trust the process.
For sure.
So it became the way I live my life is the marathon mindset.
So the marathon mindset, I know what happens at the beginning.
Yes.
And then also, usually, around mile 20.
You hit the wall.
Yeah. So tell me what happens to you usually, what in your brain at that marker?
The physical, I tell people, visual that I have of that in my life is, I started running these marathons after learning how to walk again. So that was mile 1 through 19. My mile 20 in my life is when I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And so I had to relearn the push through differently, and that's kind of what mile 20 was. It's just you have muscle memory, so you can do it. Your physical is gone though, you have no more to tap in, and that's where the mental and the spiritual aspect of the marathon mindset comes in, because it's beyond the physical training, because your body's tired. So that's when the mind and spirit starts to come in and connect with the body. And so that's kind of how I approach mile 20. I don't try to push my body anymore physically. I'm like, how can I tap into this from a mental and spiritual aspect to get to the finish line?
And then how would you transfer that to life, or how have you been? Because I know you have.
Yes. So for me, outside of the autoimmune, the thing it taught me is that, health wasn't always about drinking green juice, getting fit. It was also about, taking care and rest to sustain. And so in life now, I pay attention to resting, recovery, and restoration just as much as I pay attention to the physical training. I make sure my mental is good, as well as my body, physical body. I make sure whether it's connecting with people, and tapping into that spiritual aspect and growing that part. So exercising all 8 dimensions of wellness.
Holistic approach.
Yes, the holistic approach.
You touch on your autoimmune disease.
Yes.
And I think you were diagnosed with it later in life, right?
Yes, much later.
So at that point, you already overcame so many things.
Yes.
You really dedicating yourself to fitness. I mean, your body, running the marathons, building wellness business. And then you find out this.
Yeah.
I mean, have you felt like, what's going on? Why is my body failing me?
Absolutely. I was like, really? You know, I tell people the first thing was, okay, here's the doctors telling me again that there's nothing they can do. I've heard that before. You know, I was like, but then the reality was one day I'm in my car and I just cried and screamed. I was like, why me? You know, I do all these things to take care of myself. Why am I having to go through this?
Yeah.
But I really looked at it, and that's the mental and spiritual. And so I was like, what if my purpose in life is to go through things and overcome them to show other people that they can overcome the hard things? What if I'm just an example to other people? And I've been trusted with that gift
to
of
be
being
a
able
role
to
model.
overcome and be a role model to people. And now I'm sitting here crying about it. And so I try to look at it always from that perspective that, you know, what if I'm the chosen one? You know, not the damaged one, but the chosen one.
Yeah. I mean, but it's a heavy load to
It's a heavy load.
carry.
But when you look at the reason behind the heavy load, you know, my mom used to always say, and I never really understood it. She was like, God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds crazy, you know. But then I try to go back to that. I was like, you know what? I have the hardest battle because I'm the strongest soldier.
You are.
And so I try to always look at it from that perspective versus woe is me or why me. And I was like, why not me? You know, and flip the script on it.
I like how you shifted your perspective on health and
instead of
purpose.
why me, why not?
Yeah.
Morning. So
That's powerful, and I think that's a great lesson for all of us. To do that. Well, going back a little bit to the races, as a true Houstonian, you ran Houston Half, our city's iconic race.
Yes.
A number of times.
A number of times.
You're a true veteran.
It's part of my birthday.
Okay.
My birthday is in October. It's like the way I celebrate my birthday.
Yay. I was gonna ask, why is it so special to you? Why are you coming back?
It's my birthday month.
Yes.
And for me, it's like celebrating my life through a sport that changed my life.
I see.
And so October is always special because of that. It's my birthday month, and I get a chance to celebrate my life through the sport that changed it. And so the Houston Half is always that for me. And it's also the month that I ran my very first marathon, the Marine Corps in Washington, D.C. It normally happens the same weekend as the Houston Half. And so instead of going back to the Marine Corps, which I never have, every year I've always just run the Houston Half here to celebrate that anniversary. So, yeah.
That makes sense. And to celebrate the city, thanks for supporting. So for people who are indecisive, you know, thinking, oh, maybe it's too late to start, or I don't know if I want to sign up or not, what would you tell them to convince them?
It's never too late. So the good thing about the Houston Half, it's not about physical fitness, it's about community. One, you'll never find a better after party.
That's very true.
They have the best food, the best music. So you never find another better after party. So run for the food and the entertainment that happens afterwards. But it is truly a community run. You have the option of doing a relay with a friend, so you don't have to share it all. You know, you don't have to do the full 13. You can do just the 10K. So you have an option with the Houston Half that's for everyone. you can walk, you can run. And the city comes out and support it in droves. Like, it's so fun. And it's also around Halloween, so you can wear Halloween costumes. You see all the costumes. So
meet us all there in October.
yes,
We're all going to be
meet us
ready.
all there. It's one big party.
Yay.
If you're not there, you're missing out. So yeah.
Outside of being a runner, you started hiking.
Yes.
And again, you love big things.
Big things.
So you already did Kilimanjaro,
Yes.
right? How would you compare hiking Kilimanjaro and running a marathon? Or
Very, very similar to my approach to running marathons. Is, you know, my doctors was like, hey, you might need to work different muscles. You've been running. You know, you're going to wear out your muscles. Try something else. I was like, oh, I'll just hike. And my first hike ended up being Kili, which probably, you know, my first race was a marathon, a full marathon, not even a half.
Exactly.
So, you know, that approach to hiking has been it. But I realized that I get a chance to tap into my body physically. You have the same, you know, mindset as, you know, it's always fun when you start and you look and you're like, oh my God, this is a beautiful sight. And along the way you lose the sight because you're actually on the mountain and you can't really see it anymore. It's like the halfway point where you're like, oh my God, I still have X amount of miles to go. But you get to the top and you're like, wow, this is what it's for, just like a finish line. So it's definitely been the same experience mentally, physically, and spiritually as running a marathon and just really tapping into nature. So I really enjoy both aspects, the hiking and the running. So.
And you say often the finish line is just the start.
Yes, first book.
Yes. How did you come up with this powerful phrase? And then
Because what I realized, like when I first was preparing for my first race, it was truly about proving the doctors wrong, the therapists wrong, that wasn't my new normal. I can do the big hard things. And so I had the finish line in mind, but when I got to the finish line, I realized that this was just the start of a whole new life for me.
I see.
There was so much more, you know, beyond the finish line, you know, and I always say that the finish line is just the beginning of the next start line. So it's like, there's always more to come afterwards. There was so much growth and development that came after that first finish line. And even today, like, I learned more about myself after I crossed the finish line of what I can do mentally, physically, and spiritually once I cross the finish line.
I do love how you tweak your perspective on things to always have that lesson.
I'm always that way.
Yeah.
I'm always a devil's advocate. Like, how can I look at it from the opposite perspective? That's always been my trait.
Which is great. And you work with lots of people, coaching them in their wellness journey. So we're going to go straight there. What do you tell to your clients in those pivotal moments where they feel like they have a setback and you need to reset them?
Well, I really practice, and it's actually scientific, but I help them switch and look at it from a different perspective. But the first thing I have them do is something that is actually a neuroscience. Her name is Dr. Leaf, where she believes in, like, okay, you have all these thoughts flooding your brain, like write them all down, all the bad thoughts. Just write them all out. And she call it a brainstorm, basically. And you just put all it out there on paper. And so I tell them, I'm like, okay, think of all the bad thoughts that are coming to your mind right now, and let's write it out. Just write it all out on a piece of paper. Because it's a way of detoxing those thoughts out instead of allowing them to sit inside of you.
Yeah.
So once they vomit it all out, you know, now there's nothing left there, and it makes room for them to start looking at it from a different perspective. because you can't really look at it from a different perspective if all these other thoughts are flooding your brain.
Yeah.
So we try to vomit it and detox them out. And then I ask questions of, it's the what, why, who, and type situation to kind of help them switch and think about, like, why do you feel that way? How? Who is it connected to? So you can start seeing it from a different perspective. And so it changes the whole mindset of why you felt that way, or why things feel heavy, are you not releasing it and you're allowing it to come back up over and over, playing over and over in your head.
Yeah.
Instead of really listening to them, because a lot of times when pain or discomfort comes, the first thing we do is try to get rid of it. Take a pain pill, to get rid of the pain.
Yes, we do.
Discomfort in a race. You just stop and walk, and stop running, and so the goal is to go beyond that, push beyond that, and get to the other side of it. And basically, I like to call it become friends with your pain. Because when you look at pain, discomfort, heaviness as a friend and not somebody out to get you, you start to build a different relationship with it. So you can see it from a different perspective.
Yep.
Yeah. Kind of like when your friends or family members piss you off, you still love them.
Yeah.
So, look at it as a friend or family member.
Yeah.
It may suck in that moment.
It does.
But you'll be like, oh, that's just the way my friend is. So it goes away.
It does, yeah. Yeah.
And so it's really about doing that, like really changing the label you put on it to a different label.
You also say rest and resilience equal performance.
Yes.
So for high achievers who don't know how to stop, how do you cultivate that rest and explain, hey, it's actually good?
Yeah, because the first
Tell
thing.
me, please.
First thing I tell you, the first question I ask most people, I was like, do you want to perform really great for a year, or do you want to perform really great for 10 years?
I see. Long term.
Like, do you want to be a one-hit wonder, or do you want to be a legend? So you have to start from that perspective in mind. If you want to go hard, be a one-hit wonder, great football players, work hard, hit all the people, get injured.
Yeah, I see. Again, changing that mindset and perspective.
Yeah. And then you have people like a LeBron James who spend just as much money on recovery. He's known to spend up to $1 million a year just on rest and recovery.
Wow.
But he's also been in the game longer than anyone else.
Yeah.
So, and still performing at a high level. So it first starts off with, do you want to be a one-hit wonder, or do you want to be a legend? And once you decide you want to be a legend, you have to now incorporate different practices. You have to rest and recover just as hard as you work out. I tell people Mondays and Fridays are my rest and recovery days. And just as I'm not gonna miss a long run, I'm not gonna miss a rest and recovery day. I don't take them for granted. And I truly, incorporate them in my day-to-day, just like I would a training run. So I think it's important. You just have to realize, do I want to do this long-term and be great? Or do I want to be great and it's going to be short-term? So.
What advice would you give to people who want to start running, but especially women of color who might not have as much representation in long-distance sport? Yeah.
Well, that's always the first thing I was told. They're like, oh my God, you're a Black lady and you run marathons? Like, I don't see, honestly, I mean, there's representation is getting much better these days.
It does.
Versus when I started running 20 years ago. But it also, I also played tennis, where that wasn't a representation of people of color either 20 years ago. It was before, I played tennis before Venus and Serena came, So it was, not really a thing. And so I think for me, it's another reason why it's so important that I show up.
Yeah.
To show that running is the total opposite. Like, it has nothing to do with color. Actually it's how we bring different cultures, communities together through running. It's like, I love that I can go out my door, go out for a walk, and everybody, good morning.
Yes.
How are you? Good morning. Doesn't matter what color you are, no matter how old you are.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if you're male or female. Everybody's just excited to be out,
Very true.
And so I want to be representative of that, because truly, I think that's where community lies. And everybody is such a better mood when they're moving, And so I always tell people, I think one day running can end war, and bring about world peace. I mean, maybe if we just go for a run.
Maybe we should do that.
Go for a run instead of fighting and arguing, it may decrease the level of anger that exists. And we realize how much we have more in common than we don't have in common. So, yeah.
That will be great. Crystal, it's been a pleasure running with you. Thank you for being a role model to all of us, to the community, and thank you for the life lessons that you shared today with us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
We'll see you at Houston Half.